And we continue now with more of my exclusive interview with former Vice President Dick Cheney. You said that the president's cerebral approach projects weakness and that the president is looking far more radical than you expected. I was, during the campaign, criticized a lot because I was warning, I thought, of the president's radical associations. How radical do you view him now? How radical do you view his opinions?
I saw him, when he got elected, as a liberal Democrat, but conventional in the sense of sort of falling within the parameters of the National Democratic Party. I think he's demonstrated pretty conclusively now during his first year in office that he's more radical than that he's farther outside the parameters, if you will, of what we've traditionally had in Democratic presidents in years past.
Mm-hmm. When in this speech he said, I wanted to transition to the KSM trial a little bit, he said, again, he goes back to this, I prohibited torture, I'm closing Guantanamo Bay. Now they're going to try Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and some other collaborators in a civilian court. Your reaction to that?
I think it's a huge mistake. The precedent exists for us to use military commissions. It was done by Roosevelt in World War II. It was done in connection with the plotters and the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. Set up a military commission, try these individuals, and if they're guilty, then you execute them. And the Supreme Court had upheld that. Now we have a situation in which they're going to go ahead and use the commissions for the coal bombers, but they're going to bring KSM and his associates up to New York and put them in a federal civilian court. The danger of that, in my mind, is it's going to give KSM a huge platform. He'll have the opportunity to go in there, excuse me, and do battle over the evidence, try to get his hands on classified material. Beyond that, he'll be able to go in whenever he's up on the stand and proselytize, if you will, millions of people out there around the world, including some of his radical Muslim friends, and generate a whole new generation of terrorists.
Beyond proselytizing, is there a worry that you would have that he may want to send a message to his fellow terrorists? I mean, do we have to worry about that?
I think we have to worry about it all the time anyway. And
regardless of this?
Well, this may add to it a bit. I mean, this is a man who first of all has admitted his crime, said he expected to be tried before a military commission, and executed down in Guantanamo. He wants to die for Allah. You know, he's proud of what he did when he came to the U.S. and organized the efforts of 9/11 to kill 3,000 Americans. And the more visibility he gets for his continued activities, the more he's going to encourage others to think as he does and to embark upon the same religious jihad that's
he hasn't
dominated
changed
his life.
But this is what was odd to me, because he admitted that he was responsible, that he was the mastermind, in his words, from A to Z.
Right.
How likely is it that the evidence that they accumulated is now going to be inadmissible because it's a civilian trial, but they didn't give Miranda rights?
I'm not a lawyer, Sean, so I don't want to make predictions. But I don't know what's going to happen in those trials. The thing that's disturbing is I don't think the Justice Department does either. And if it's an absolute certain thing, then Holder has the problem of saying, well, we're going to have a balanced trial and they'll have an opportunity to defend themselves and so forth. If it's not a certain thing, why are you bringing them here? I mean, we know he's guilty. He's one of the most evil men in history. He is responsible for the death of thousands of Americans, and he ought to be punished as such.
You said in an interview that New York City is great, this trial in New York City is great for Al-Qaeda. It's a pretty strong statement. What did you mean by that?
I mean that I think it'll give aid and comfort to the enemy. I think it will make Khalid Sheikh Mohammed something of a hero in certain circles, especially in the radical regions of Islam around the world. It'll put him on the map. He'll be as important or more important than Osama bin Laden.
Wow.
And we will have made it possible. We will have given him that platform, that opportunity to come here, and there's absolutely no need to do that. There's all the precedent in the world for prosecuting him with a military commission at Guantanamo and so forth.
You can bring it back to the Revolutionary War, the Civil War. You mentioned Lincoln, World War II, and they changed the policy in this particular case. Is all of this predicated on the president's belief, although he did seem to shift in his speech the other night, because for a long time the administration wouldn't even use the term war on terror.
Right.
They were redefining it as a man-caused disaster. You think it's predicated on a belief that maybe Barack Obama, his administration, doesn't believe there's a war on terror?
I think so. I state it slightly differently, but it's very consistent with your concept. I think the key that happened on 9/11 is we went from considering terrorist attacks as a law enforcement problem to considering terrorist attacks, especially on the scale we had on 9/11, as being an act of war. When you lose 16 acres of downtown Manhattan, people jumping out of the 80th story of the Trade Center to avoid being burned alive, the attack on the Pentagon, the possible attack on the White House or the Capitol building, this is an act of war. And that changes your whole strategy. It should, in terms of the means you're prepared to use in order to defend against that kind of attack in the future. What I see happening here is the Obama administration is now going back to that old pre-9/11 concept that this is all about individual crimes and a problem for law enforcement. It's not a war to be fought and prosecuted as we ordinarily would prosecute.
Do you think part of this is to put our CIA on trial, to put you on trial, to put President Bush on trial? Or maybe if it's not designed to do that, ultimately will that happen?
I don't know. I don't know whether that's a motive for them or not. It could be. It could be that Holder expects to be able to use this to go back and sort of review in depth the Bush-Cheney administration policies in terms of what we did to prevent attacks against the United States. I think that's a loser for them. I think the vast majority of the American people appreciate the fact that we had good, tough policies, we had great people carrying them out, and we succeeded.
And we'll have more